Hey, what's up, guys? It's Zach from Racing Sim Tools, and today we're going to be doing the Mercedes Evo here at Imola. We're working on the track bundle setup pack that we're offering through RST. We've done, I think what was our first track? Spa. Now we did Silverstone. Now we're working on Imola. We're trying to get a bunch of different types of tracks in there just so you guys can, use those setups at other tracks if it's a similar track. But working at the Mercedes today, trying to do all the front engine cars before working to the mid engine and then eventually the Porsche. Reason why are the front engines definitely can take a better, more aggressive line through Imola than the rear engine or the mid engine. They're just able to have a lot better wheel compliance over those curbs. So turns 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the final chicane, you can really attack in these cars. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do RST data. We're going to do some laps. We're going to work on this setup for you guys. If you guys have any questions on RST, be sure to ask them in the chat. I'll try to answer them as I go through and explain things and just kind of give you guys an idea of how I'm thinking and approaching problems with setups when I'm going in and working on them. I will show you guys, I mentioned it yesterday, but I forgot to. I will show you guys the new software update that we're working on that shows you guys like multiple laps. So I'll be sure to do that. I'm going to do some of the tire stuff, the tire pressures. Always start with the tire pressures and some of the other things, and then we'll go over just because we only have the handling and suspension tab done, and I don't want to be constantly going back and forth between. But I do want to show you guys that. It's super exciting, really cool software. But let's go ahead and get started. So first thing that we want to do is obviously work on the tire pressures. But before we do that, let's just go through really quickly and turn by turn, kind of talk about Imola, kind of do like a track walk, but just really quickly, just so you guys can be thinking of some problems here. So I'm just going to go into replay mode here, and I'm just going to pause the replay real quick because we don't really care about that. We're going to go to F7, which allows us to go into free cam mode, and I'm going to zoom quickly. So we're starting at the start finish line. First turn 1, 2 is going to be high speed linking turns here. So I usually brake right here at this kind of sidewalk, I guess you could call it. Really try to get wide on this curb. This like it looks like a Colgate toothpaste, but it's like the Italian flag. But come here, you want to get the car loaded nice and on the right hand side for this left hander. Reason being is if you have all of your load on the right hand side, you can actually really attack these curves. So I actually get on top of these yellow curves with the left hand, and because the left hand tires are unloaded because all the weight's on the right hand tires, you can really be aggressive here. You really want to hold to the left here, and then get this kind of red line out. That exit's super crucial. You're going to carry that speed onto this outside curb. Same thing here. You can take this turn flat, no problem. Just hug the inside left. Again, some curbs here. So again, at Imola, wheel compliance is super, super important. So you can take these really aggressive lines. If you have too much stiffness, your wheel compliance is too low, you're not going to be able to hit these curbs. You're going to hit the curb and it's going to, like, the car's just going to fly off, right? So you really need that wheel compliance here. So that's already thinking softer suspension, less ARB, maybe more bump stop gap, maybe softer bump stop, right? Right. We're just trying to decrease that vertical load on that tire, so that it can really go over those curbs. All right, going down, turns 3, 4, exactly the same as 1, 2. It's this high speed linking turn here. So you have the left, right. Really important to get a good exit on the right hand turn. So you don't want to go too deep on the left hander. Usually break between the 100 and the 50 marker. Again, really getting on this left hand. I hit the curbs here. Again, wheel compliance, super important at Imola. This one's really important because you can get a little bit of high speed instability. So this is really a good place to kind of get that high speed tuning just right. But you don't want to, a lot of people they go wide here like this line. You don't want to do that. You want to stick to the left just a little bit and then really hit this red like line out, like right through here. If you can see my cursor. And again, yellow sausage curve on the inside. Really want to be able to have that wheel compliance to attack that. I'm going to get drift out onto this kind of curve here. Turn, I think, what is this? Turn 5. Pretty basic. It's kind of a hairpin type turn. Some cars really struggle on the traction out of here. Mercedes shouldn't have that problem, but yeah, you just want to hook the inside. Typical kind of hairpin turn. Just kind of come in wide, hit the apex mid corner, and track out. Turn 6 is super important. So this is a super high speed turn. I actually, let me slow this speed down. Sorry for the camera work, guys. So I usually brake at this feeder 50 marker board. And this is going to be a really high speed turn. You want to get a trail brake and hit this line right here. Again, Sasha's curves on the inside. You want a trail brake to get the car rotated, but then you want it to drift out and not kill too much speed. It's kind of like turn 1 at Silverstone. You need to get the car rotated, but if you try to brake to trail brake too much, you slow down the car, you overslow the car, and you lose a lot of time. There's a lot of exit curb here, but the thing is, if you go over this red line on the inside tire, you will get an invalidated lap. You want to be careful there. One thing that I really tune here is yesterday we talked about dampeners. And we said when you increase front rebound, it increases, it unloads the front tires faster, right? Mechanically. But the thing is, rebound slows down the front aero element from popping up, right? So this corner, because it's a high speed corner, really benefits from a little bit more front rebound, keeps that front splitter low to the ground after the trail brake, so you get the car nice and rotated here. So that's something to really be thinking about. Next turn, it's going to be this downhill downhander. This one's really tricky. You don't want to really brake, but you do need to get the car rotating and slow down just a little bit. Car can get really unstable here, so this is a really important part to get stability right. But you just dab the brake to get rotated. You want it to drift out, and then you want to brake in a straight line here. So you clip this inside curb just a little bit, and you want to get the car kind of on this curb, but not in this range. This is super, super slippery, especially in the wet. If you get on this kind of like black red tarmac, you're gonna invalidate one and you're gonna get really loose and you might spin. So it's really hard to basically get the stability through this corner, but then brake enough to get on this. But you want to get really wide here because you really want to carry a lot of mid corner speed here. You can actually get a nice rotation here with a lot of mid corner speed because it's uphill. And there's a little bit of camber to the turn. I don't know if you can really see that, but there's a little bit of camber here. So you can really get the car rotated. You want to just hug this curb. Again, sausage curbs here. So you're starting to see all these sausage curbs. Really be thinking about wheel compliance here at Silverstone. Imola, sorry. Then you track out. You want to hit these curves, but if you hit these yellow curves, it will invalidate. So you just want to be on this black between the yellow and the green. Next, coming up to the final chicane. This one's super important. This is where the high speed or the front engine cars really benefit. You really want to brake here at the beginning of this curb. And you really want to take this kind of line. So like you really want to hit this right here. So you want to hit the inside tire between this yellow and this. So you want to kind of find that little like groove. and then you want to carry straight, and then like do the same thing but on the left hand side, and you need to get the car a little bit rotated. If you don't get the steering wheel rotated, what happens is you hit this curb, and because it goes into a compression and a rebound zone, you drift out. If you get a little bit of steering input, it gets it just nice where you can get a little bit of rotation on the exit. If you get wide here, if you hit these yellow curves on the exit, it will invalidate your lap. So this is super important. Another thing to think about is if you hit this inside yellow curve, it will invalidate your lap. I have hit this inside yellow curve and it hasn't invalidated my lap. So the entry is a little bit more forgiving than the exit. Exit super critical to get right. This inside curve will upset the car though. Even though it won't invalidate, it is really upsetting to the car. So I go a little bit more conservative on the entry, a little bit more aggressive on the exit. Just make sure you don't hit that and invalidate. I'm gonna get the power as soon as you can down. I'm gonna carry it down to this corner. I usually brake at the 100 marker board. Some can brake a little bit after, but this is pretty self-explanatory. Downhill, you will be trail braking, so if you go a little bit too aggressive, it can get loose. But you just want to hug this inside curb, let the car track out here. Same thing here. This curb turn really benefits from getting a little bit more rotation into the car. You can carry a little bit more speed. You're on this curb, and then you have these inside curbs. Again, if you have the car loaded, you have you're hitting that lateral G like right here. That's really good because all that weight's on the right hand side tires. Left hand side tires don't have a lot of load. So if you hit these curbs, they don't really upset the car. If you hit the curbs without having the car loaded, it will upset the car a little bit more. But that's pretty much a lap at Imola, guys. One thing that's really nice about the Mercedes that I will kind of mention here is that the Mercedes can get away with really high bump stop gaps and really low bump stop brakes for the front. And the reason why is usually we use bump stops and to control the pitch of the car so that we can control the aero of the car, right? Like let me kind of show you a quick diagram real quick of what a typical aero curve would look like. And this is going to be kind of funny because I'm drawing with the mouse. But let me just kind of draw you guys something real quick. So a typical aero map, let's say this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis. So the x-axis would be your ride height, right? And then we'll just say it's the front. Usually you would have a front curve and a rear curve. And then our CLA. So our CLA, just think of it as our downforce. It's the coefficient of lift coefficient with area included into it. But a typical downforce curve will look something like this. And let me draw this in blue. A typical downforce curve will have an increase, kind of a flat region, and then a decrease, right? And then I'll do something like this, right? So ideally what you would want to be, oh, and let me move this over. See this as well. Okay. So hopefully you can see this curve. So ideally what you would do is you'd want to be, and let me label these regions, because these are kind of the regions that are important to us when we're doing our downforce. And Imola's really benefits from a lot of downforce. So that's why I'm kind of explaining these things, these concepts. So ideally, you have to think about where you'll be on these curves. When you're on corner exit, the front ride height will be higher than it was on entry, right? That weight transfers backwards on the rear. It's going to pitch the front up a little bit. So on corner exit, you will be typically, let's do like green for corner exit. You'll typically, be in this region, right? The car's pitching backwards, front is coming up. So you're going to be coming this way down that curve, right? So you're going to be decreasing front grip as you corner exit. Hey, what's up, Voodoo? When you're on braking, you're going to be going the opposite direction. So I'll draw this in. Let's do color. Do like a purple. So for corner entry, you're going to be going this way, right? You're going to be going up to the left of this curve. Well, if you are statically at like, this region, right? So statically, let's say you go into corner entry, you're going to be a little bit higher up this curve. So let's say this is static, and then this is at hard corner entry, right? You hit the brakes, the weight pitched forward, and because of that, you're now higher up this curve, meaning you're generating more coefficient of lift. You're generating more grip at the front, right? Well, what we do with bump stops is we can control at how high we go up this curve, right? If we know if we don't want to go all the way up to like the peak flat plateau area, just because we don't have enough rear grip, maybe we don't have enough rear wing, or just something we want to limit the front grip. What you can do is use bump stops, and what that'll eventually do is, let's just say like there's a gray line here. Let's say this second purple is a little bit too much. What we could do is add bump stop rate and bump stop, decrease the bump stop gap. So basically now at that same load, the car would only like come to like this gray line. So instead of being over that gray line, it would be at or slightly below, right? So that's how we use bump stops to control the pitch. What ultimately helps us control where we sit on this downforce curve. That being said, at Imola, because we're in the Mercedes, it doesn't need a lot of bump stops. It uses what's called anti-dive. So it doesn't need bump stops. Because of the geometry, it actually prevents the car from diving. So it doesn't affect single wheel compression. So you can still attack curves really good. But the difference is now when you have pitching on both the front inside and outside tires, it will help with the anti-dive, which means we can do really low bump stop rates, really high bump stop gaps, which guess what? At Imola, it makes a huge difference because all of those sausage curves that we were talking about. So enough with the diagrams. Let's go ahead and load into the game now. So I just have the Silverstone setup. Again, Silverstone setup is a really good baseline track. We found a really good correlation between how the handling, both in transient and steady state for Silverstone, translates to Imola. So we're just going to go ahead and start with that setup. Let me go ahead and load her in. So I'm just going to load her up real quick. First things that we're always going to focus on when we're doing any kind of setup work is tire pressures. ACC tire pressures are super, super sensitive. If you're not at the correct tire pressures, which with the new tires is around 27.5, you're going to be chasing your tail. You really want to get the tire pressures nailed first. And tire pressures are one of those things is they increase or decrease with how much load or how you're loading up the tire. So it's something that we're going to continue to check, right? Because as we make suspension adjustments, maybe we increase stiffness on the rear or maybe the front, it's going to change how we load those tires, which is going to change the pressures, right? So pressure is the first thing, and we always want to kind of reiteratively check it as we make changes. And Voodoo said, I hated the Merc Evo in Imola. Very easy in the curves, but lateral grip was sketchy. Yeah, it definitely, the Mercedes, because it has an anti-dive, it definitely has a different front end grip to it. So it's a little bit kind of getting used to. To me, it feels a little bit more floaty than a typical car. There's a little bit less progression, but it's so good over the curves that it can take a very aggressive line that you can't take at on other cars. And it's a combination between being the front engine and then also the bump stop from the anti-dive, not being able to run much higher bump stop rates and lower bump stop rates, higher bump stop gaps. Sorry. Now let's go ahead. What we're gonna do, guys, is just do a few laps. Really want to make sure you're consistent. Don't want to be introducing driver variability when you're working on setup. So what we're gonna do, and what I always recommend people do, just do some warm-up laps. Just do to where you're getting within a tenth or two every lap, so that you can be assured that when you're making changes to the setup, it's not because of the driver, making mistakes or doing better. It's because it's the setup. So we're just going to go ahead. Tire pressures are really low right now. We're just going to get those tire pressures up. And again, this is a Silverstone setup, so Silverstone has a lot more right-hand turns than left-hand turns. Imola has more left-hand turns than right-hand turns, so the pressures for the left are probably going to be way low. But we'll just do 2 laps. That'll get us to our nominal pressures. So you don't want to do just 1 lap when you're working pressures. It takes about 2 or 3 laps to get them to where they're at nominal. And then we'll make adjustments there, and then we should be good. Love the engine, the roar of this engine. It sounds so good. Don't want to attack the curbs too much when you're low pressures. It can really damage the tire. A lot of you, ACC does a really good job about modeling tire damage, which is kind of cool. It adds like another element to it that you don't get with some sims, right? Some sims, they just say wear, whereas ACC has wear, it has graining, it has blistering. And what graining is, for a lot of you that maybe don't know, is when you push the tire before the tire is really hot. And what that means is you're increasing the surface temperature at a really high rate while the internal temperature is still cold. That creates a really high temperature differential between the inside and outside. and that's actually what causes the graining. So when you're doing your out laps, you just kind of want to take it easy first 2 laps or so until your internal temps come up, which a lot of cars you have it on the dash. I don't know if I have it on here, but on my my external dash, I can actually see my internal temps 80, 81, 80, 84. So once you get those above like around 75 or higher, you can start to push the car. But yeah, you just want to make sure you don't damage the tires in the warm-up phase, because it can really make a difference over the length of a stint. And tire pressure on the left-hand side are really low, and tire pressure on the right-hand side are really high. Again, that's a anomaly coming from Silverstone. So let's do another lap here. We'll dial these pressures in. Always the first thing I do in ACC. Super critical to get tire pressures spot on. And I hope you guys are enjoying the stream. Let me know if the audio or if there's any stuttering or anything like that. Since I got the new graphics card, we've been kind of playing the settings. I've been super happy with the quality of the stream. I think the stream's been looking really good. Sound's been really good. But if you guys notice anything, just let me know and I'll try to address it. It's always the worst when you do a stream and then you watch it back and it's all choppy. All right, front left needs about 0.6 psi, and the right hand side needs to drop about a psi. So let's go ahead. Now that we've done 2 or 3 laps, we can go ahead and look at the data. And let me show you guys just what I was talking about, how it takes 2 or 3 laps. I'm going to load up RST here, and I forgot whenever I do a new window capture, I have to reselect. So let me just select that real quick, guys. So now you should be able to see RST, and we have some of these laps loaded in. So if I select, let's just select this out lap here. If I go to temps and ABS TMP, so what ABS TMP is absolute tire pressures. You can see that if we look at these top 2 left-hand graphs, we started, at like 50 EC and they're increasing, right? So there's an increase to tire temperatures and pressures just because they're cold and we're heating them up. You want to wait until they're relatively flat over a lap. So you can still see we're still increasing them. I probably should have done 1 more lap, but they're so off. I need to increase them and then we'll loop back again. But what we can see is the tire pressures here, here at the bottom. We're at 28.5 on the right-hand side for both the front and the rear. And then the rear left looks good at 27.49, but the front left is a little bit too low. So we're going to go ahead, make those tire pressure adjustments, and we'll go back up. But this is why it's super critical to make sure you do 3 or 4 laps, because if you set the tire pressures when they're still coming up, they're obviously going to be different after like 4 or 5 laps, right? So if you set them at 2 laps, and they're still coming up a lap or 2 after that, you're going to have overinflated tires, right? So super critical just to do that. But let's go ahead and make this adjustment real quick. So I'm just going to go into the setup. We're going to just load this bad boy up. And we're just going to go up 0.6 on the front left. So that's going to put us at 26.1. Then we're going to drop the right-hand side by about a PSI. And then the rear left looks pretty good. So super critical, guys, when you do setups to give a good naming convention so you know the difference between the setups as you do that. And one thing with RST is if I come in here and click on the little pencil mark, if you guys won't see it, but a pop-up window comes, I can actually name that session something else. So I'm just going to say RST baseline for this one. And if we save that, you'll see that now this has changed. And now I have a good indication of what has what that lap was. So Togla said, is this UI from the next version of RC? So this is actually the production version that's out right now. You can download this on our website. The new version, I will show you. You'll be able to tell the difference between the new version and this version. There's a huge difference. But yeah, we're just going to go ahead and load that up. And then I'm going to save this setup. So this setup is going to now become Imola 0.1. And we're just working on the tire pressures now. So we'll just call it Imola. And once we get these dialed in, guys, I will switch the camera and we'll just go do another few laps. All right, we got that saved. I did forget to rename it to 0.1, so let me just do that real quick. I always have 1.0 as what our release version for the setup bundle packs are. So that's why I'm super important about naming convention. But yeah, we should be good now, guys. So let's just go ahead and look at switch to the tire sets. I sometimes do that. Don't forget, guys, when you're doing practicing, switch the tire set. Sometimes it'll auto increment for you, but sometimes if you don't switch it, you'll realize you're doing laps on old tires, and that's not necessarily what you want to do, especially if you're monitoring how the setup is changing those tire pressures, right? So just be kind of aware of that. It's caught me out a few times. Oh, whoops, let's not go out. So let me just reset. Make it a lot easier, right? So sometimes you guys don't know I have a swivel out keyboard, and sometimes I hit the gas before the keyboard's out of the way. That's what happened right there, and I lost the car. I love having a keyboard tray though, guys. If you have a rig and you don't have a keyboard tray, I highly recommend it. Speed. Good thing you can't make clips on YouTube. But all right, guys, let's go ahead. Let's get, again, same thing. Let's just get some temperature pressures in the tires. Takes about 2-3 laps to get to nominal temperatures, pressures. And then we'll start pushing the car, and we'll have a good indication of the balance of the car. Whenever you guys might have seen my video on the VHM diagram. VHM diagram is a really good way to explain car handling, and it separates out transient and steady state handling because they're very different. But in that kind of cheat sheet, which you can find on the RST Discord, I have kind of what my workflow is. I always start with the mid-corner balance, the steady state behavior of the car. And the reason why is there's some things that we can do that will affect transient that necessarily might not affect balance, but anything that we affect on balance will affect transient. So you want to get your balance really set, ideally, and then you can work on transient behavior. And the idea is to get it a really good balance, and then you can start making little trade-offs in that mid-corner balance to get the transient behavior where you really want it. And a really good mid-corner balance is pretty universal. Most drivers all like the cars to be very neutral mid-corner. That being said, transient behavior, which is corner entry, corner exit, is very, very specific to driver. That's one of the reasons it's really hard to do setups and then say, hey, this is a setup that anyone can use, because those transient behaviors is really driver specific, and every driver likes their car to feel a little bit different, right? Some drivers can have a lot of response in the car. A car really turns in corner entry. They can decrease the steering angle and the output, get really good exit. Some people like way less response on the entry, right? So it just depends on how the driver likes the car. But that's what the VHM diagram is really good at, is separating steady state and transient behaviors. But temperatures are starting to come up. I'm gonna start pushing the car a little bit here. Start seeing. Car feels absolutely hooked up through that turn. What's up, Nails? How's it going, bud? Hey, I watched the race the other day, man. That was an epic drive by you, man. A little bit wide there. Tire pressure still coming up just a little bit low still on that left-hand side. Might need another PSI or two. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, now I got the pressure to not make driving mistakes now that Nils is watching. So a lot of you, I don't know if you've probably seen it, the new tracks for the British DLC are coming out next weekend. Super exciting. I know there's gonna be a lot of content. Just to guys give you a heads up, we will be doing RC setups for those tracks. They'll be after the Imola setup, so they're not going to be right at release. That being said, we're hoping some of maybe the Imola tracks might benefit from British, so it might be a good baseline for you guys. But I think I've been seeing the pictures of the tracks, and they look so cool. I'm super excited to give them a go. All right, we're on lap 3 here. All All right, 1 second. Justin, let me get on the straight and I'll read your text. It's just a little bit hard to read long text on the first sector and second sector here at Imola. But let me get here. And we're going to start pushing the car to see where we're losing time. As I said, just recently picked up your software and using it to learn where I'm doing things wrong. Analyzing my data against Nils has been a huge help. Thanks for the both of you work. Yeah, that's all Nils. You have to get all that goes to Nils, man. He's been the one putting all that effort into the data. All I really did was set RST up so that it kind of was a platform for him, but he has put a ton of work into getting all that data for you guys. I know it's been a ton of work on his part, so. Oh, no worries, man. Yeah, I remember when we did the RCI, it was so hard to, went wide there. It was so hard to talk just because Imola is such a crazy track. But tire pressures are good now. We are going to start pushing this next lap, so let's see where we can get the time. Again, I always start by getting the tire pressures and just getting the driver variability out of the equation. I want to see me being consistent within 2 or 3 laps, about a tenth or two of one another. Again, so important to get that driver variability out of the loop. So many people start doing setup adjustments before they've really, got the driver consistency down. And it just makes it so hard to do setup adjustments because you don't know, is it the driver getting better or is it the setup? So anything you can do. Man, this car just eats the curves. It's absolutely insane. A little bit wide there. That was my mistake. All right, let's come up to this fast left-hander. Car has a lot of rotation, actually. If I had to relate it to the VHM, I almost think it has a little bit too much rotation, a little too much response. You can get kind of a 4-wheel drift if you get too much response, but still have the car very balanced. There's actually a diagram called a polar moment, or a moment lateral G diagram, basically. And there's a correlation. As you increase lateral G through the corner, your rotation, your ability, your response, your rotational moment goes down, and vice versa. So it's, yeah, this car is so fast here. All right, let's see. Let's try to make no mistakes here. Again, trying to get consistent. So far, I'm thinking about the VHM diagram. I'm thinking about how this car fails corner entry, mid-corner, and exit. Because a 43.7 can definitely go way quicker than that. Let's try to get down. My goal is to do low 42s on the full tank. Again, trying to load up the corner to hit those curves. It really unsettles the car if you don't have the car loaded when you go into those curves. There we go. Very nice. Little wiggle on the exit. Not too bad though. Front right and rear right pressure's a little bit high. Gonna invalidate. Yep, went too wide there. This is my bad. Wow, the car didn't even react over the exit chicane. That was insane. This car is pretty easy mode here, not gonna lie. This is my first time driving the Mercedes here. We drove the Aston Martin on the RCI driver invite for I think it was like a 6-hour race, and we were pretty quick. Lexus I did yesterday, first time in the Mercedes, and it's just cheese over the final chicane. Logo said, is RZA about to flush car parameters from UDP? Any improvements on the AMS2 side? Yeah, so unfortunately, so some of you guys know in ACC or in Project Cars 2, we have drop downs for the car parameters. And the reason why we have those is because the developers actually gave us the data for those cars. So we're actually loading the data, and then you guys are actually seeing, you know, the motion ratios, tire diameters, things like that. So you guys don't have to go calculate them. Unfortunately, AMS2 has not done that for Riza. And I don't think they're going to probably give it to us in the UDP output. So unfortunately, there's really not much we can do. You can still use RST without car parameters. You just don't have all the graphs that you normally would have. The reason why we have car parameters is we provide you guys a lot of math channels, right? If you had these math channels in Motec, you would also have to enter car parameters. But the problem is most people don't know the math, so they don't have these channels in Motec. We're going to try to constantly work and maybe improve the workflow for your entering car parameters. We know it's a little bit tedious right now. We want to make it so you guys can identify what parameters are required for, you know, what graphs. And we don't have any visibility on that right now. So we definitely want to do that. But until Riza, unless they give us the data, we can't make a car drop down for AMS2, unfortunately. One thing that is kind of a cheat, or not a cheat, but maybe a rule of thumb, is a lot of the cars in AMS2 are open wheelers. Most open wheelers are going to have a motion ratio of 1. It's not until you get to like GT cars where you're going to get like motion ratios like 0.8, 0.7. So that's just kind of a rule of thumb. If you don't have any data to go off of, just use that. But we do know it's a pain, so I do apologize. A little loose there. It's a little bit loose on the brakes. Not too bad. I'm kind of curious if the differential is unlocking. Might need a little bit more preload. Car feels really good on the exit, so the rear toe is probably good. The stability is not too bad. Just a little bit too responsive on corner entry under heavy trail braking. And we can do a few things to alleviate that. We can definitely look at the brake bias. You know, we'll look at the wheel slip graphs in RST, see if maybe we're locking up the rears. We can also stiffen up the front, right? That's going to load the tires up on the front a little bit more. Or what we could do is we could decrease the rear rebound on the rear dampening. That's going to help on corner entry. They keep mid-corner balance and corner exit pretty similar. So that's probably going to be the first thing. I'm going to check the wheel slip, and then if I'm not locking up the rears too much, I'm going to look at the rear rebound and see if we need to change that. Still said, any chance you can pick up the car setup data from ACC and show it in one screen, so when you have a set of runs, it does the car's full setup under it. Yeah, that's a good idea still. We'll definitely look into that. Hey, what's up, Merc? How's it going, bud? Alright, let's do one more lap. I think the driver variability is pretty much out of it. I'm making some mistakes, but I am talking, so I think we're going to be pretty consistent low 43s. It's a little bit loose, like I said. The response is a little bit higher than what I would want. So I think I'm losing a little bit of time there, so we're going to try to tame up the corner entry behavior just a little bit. Mid-corner behavior feels really good, so I really don't think I need any ARB or spring adjustment. Normally we start with that mid-corner balance, but I'm super happy with the mid-corner balance. Is this their corner entry? Oh, I got on the grass there. All right, well, we're not going to do another lap. We're going to do it now. Oh, 1 second, guys. Wife is trying to talk to me. I didn't take a break. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Okay, so what we're gonna do is let's go ahead and look at the data. I want to look at the wheel slips. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. My wife, she fosters dogs, and she's gonna go pick up another foster dog, so she needs my keys. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead. Okay. What we're gonna go ahead and do is load up our and let's look at the wheel slip. You can see we've done quite a few laps here. I did reset, so that's why we got it combined here. Let's look at the tire pressures again. You typically want to look at a corner that really is really important. So maybe that left-hander, we really want to check the right-hand pressures to make sure we're at 27.5 psi for that corner specifically. Also, turns 1, 2, 3, 4, really important to get the pressures right there, right? So let's look at the entry to turn 3. The right-hand pressure is 27.76 in the front, so we need to come down 0.2 on the front. On the rear side, the rear is 0.7 as well. So 0.2 psi on that right-hand side need to come down. Let's look on the exit of turn 4. I want to make sure that the left-hand pressures are set for that. The left-hand pressures for turn 4, 27.45 on the rear, 27.44 on the front. So the left-hand side is good. Need to come down about 0.2 on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and make that adjustment right now, so I don't forget, because I do that all the time. I always look through the data and point out things I need to change, and then I forget to change them. So I'm just going to do that real quick. I'm just going to make that change. And then again, we're going to call this setup V0.2. Really important to have a naming convention that you guys know and that you use. But next thing I want to look at is, let's go ahead and look at the longitudinal wheel slip. Again, entry to turn 3, sometimes entry to turn 1 getting really loose. I want to look at the wheel slip. Maybe I'm locking up the rears too much, which indicates I need to move the brake bias forward a little bit, right? I have a little too far back, a little too aggressive. As I unload that rear tire, it's easier to lock up. So we're going to drive it forward. But the first thing is, a lot of times if you load in and you have no car diameters, so like this, you'll know RST, you'll see nothing. This is a good indication you guys need car parameters. So you can just use this drop down menu, or you can just come in here, it fills them in for you. We've gone through the game and try to figure out what the car diameters for the cars are, so that's where that's coming from. But let me just go ahead, I have it already dialed in. Let me just load it in, and then let's go ahead and let's not look at the last lap, but let's look at the second to last lap. And I can already tell brake bias is too far back, and that's probably where some of this instability is coming from. Hey, what's up, Marvin? How's it going, man? Welcome to the stream. So we're looking at these top two graphs. What I'm curious in is the relationship on the outside tire between the front and the rear, right? So the outside tire is the more important tire. You will have small micro lockups on the inside tire because you're unloading that tire, right? So it's easier for it to lock up. But all the loads on the outside tire, so that's the one I'm really interested in. So I'm curious, what's the on turn 1, which is going to be a left-hand turn, what is the front right lock wheel slip percentage? What's the rear right wheel slip percentage? I'm just going to scroll into here, and we can see the front right is 3.21 and the rear right is 4.5. So we have a higher slip percentage on the rear, which means we're locking the rear up more, which is where a lot of that over responsive corner entry is looking. So whenever you're looking at brake bias, you never just want to look at one corner like I just did. You want to look at a few different corners. That percentage of front to rear wheel slip is going to change based on the corner, right? Not all corners are alike. Some corners are going to be downhill. Some, there might be bumpy. So you need to look at a few different corners. So we're just going to look at this corner, and then we're going to look at, again, this is corner 3. So I'm curious, on corner 3, it's another left-hand turn. I'm curious with the right hand, again, 3.6, 1.7. So we have this brake bias way too far back right now. So we're definitely going to need to make that adjustment. So this is a reoccurring theme, right? Whenever you're doing setup work, if you see reoccurring themes, that's probably a good indication of something that's going on. So you can see pretty much every time I look here, we're locking up the rears more than the fronts, right? So this is a left-hand turn. Let's look at the right. The front right is 3.45. The rear right is 3.6. So again, locking up that rear more than the front. Yep, same on this corner. So pretty much every corner we're locking the rear up more than the front. So let's just move that brake bias like forward, like 1%. ACC gives you really fine detail control over it. But if we move it up like 1%, we'll probably see a decrease in that wheel locking. One thing I did want to look at too was, remember I said you can tame down the corner entry response by decreasing the rear low speed rebound. And again, you have to remember, the more rebound dampening we have, the quicker we're going to unload that tire mechanically. It's going to do something different for the aero, right? It's going to control that aero a little bit more. But for low speed corners in a GT3, more rear rebound is going to cause more corner entry response, less rear rebound is going to tame down that response corner entry. So let's look at the rear tires histograms to see if we have maybe a rebound bias. And if I look here, looking at the rear, I really don't see a rebound bias. The rear is pretty symmetric around the zero node. So I don't think the issue that we're having was due to like maybe rebound. I think it's because of the brake bias. So let's move that brake bias forward just a little bit. Let's do a few more laps. Now with the brake, the pressure is a little bit more adjusted a little bit more. Move that brake bias forward just a little bit more and then reevaluate, right? We're constantly trying to think about where do we sit on the VHM diagram? You know, does the car over responsive or like what's the transient? Like, is it too responsive or is there too much stability? What's the steady state? Is it too much balance? Is it understeery, oversteery, right? You got to be thinking about these things when you're working on the setup. But let's just focus on getting that corner entry response a little bit more tamed down. So I'm just going to move the brake bias a little bit. So we were at 57.6. I'm going to move it up to 58.6 here. I'm curious. I'm going to look at the default aggressive just to see where they're at. So if I load the default aggressive, where are they at? Brake bias. So they're at 61.1. So they're way farther back forward than what I'm at. You want to try to move it back as much as possible because you'll engage the ABS less. Yeah, it's way far forward. The farther forward you have it, the more likely that you're going to engage that ABS. You'll have less corner entry response, right? So you'll have a more confident way to push into the corners. But as you engage that ABS more, you can actually engage the ABS too much where it really increases your braking distance, right? You want to move it back to where you get good braking distance, but a good response. You don't want too responsive or too less. And that's actually a good trick. If you can't adjust your suspension or your ride heights and things, you can actually increase corner entry response by just moving the brake bias back a little bit, right? So kind of one of those things. It's kind of just like a neat trick. But we're just going to go ahead, make that adjustment. And I'm going to look at the rebound. The rebound is a little bit high on the setup, so I'm just going to move it down one click. I think the combination of the brake bias and that will definitely help out. And then again, I always change the name of these as I'm doing it. So this was RST 0.1, just so I know when I'm coming back to this data, what the data was, right? So we have that setup adjustment in. Let's go ahead and do some laps now. And again, this setup that we're using was baseline from the RST Silverstone setup, which is a really good baseline. We found really good correlation with most of our corners there. Or most of the setups there, they translate well to Imola, so that's what we're using. But obviously the brake bias balance was way too far forward. All right, let's do some laps. We're really paying attention to how the car feels now. Corner entry response should be a little bit more tame. Corner entry response should give us a little bit more confidence to push deeper into the braking zone. And we shouldn't be losing too much time, right? If you make these adjustments, car feels way better, but you're a second slower, it kind of defeats the purpose, right? Whole goal of setup work is to go faster and give confidence to the driver. So let me get some temperature in these tires. Yeah, Toga, that's actually a really good point. So for you guys that know, Toga asks, is it possible for RST to make recommendations? And absolutely. So, you know, everyone uses data a little bit differently. What I use data for in the sim and also in real life is just to kind of reaffirm maybe what the driver is reporting or suspicions I have about what the car might be doing, right? You know, someone tells me, hey, corner entry response is way too high. You know, that's a bumpy corner. That's instantly going to cue me up. Okay, let's go look at the dampeners in the histograms to see maybe if it's a bumpy part of the track, maybe we can tweak the dampeners a little bit to get a little bit better corner entry response, right? So there's definitely things that you can do or things to look at for certain types of behaviors. And there's never going to be a way that AI will just be able to be like, hey, you need to make this adjustment, and it'd be like the absolute correct adjustment. That being said, what we're going to be looking at is, can we auto annotate the graphs for you, right? Can we point out things if you're locking up? Can we, add annotations to the graph to highlight that? We're trying to make it more accessible to maybe some of those that don't know as much as the data. So that will be coming. Right now, RST is really focused on getting this new update out, which has the ability for you guys to compare as many laps as you want on the graphs. So it's kind of a rewrite of the software. That's why it's kind of taking a little bit longer. But we're hoping to be done in the next like 2-3 weeks. And then we'll be working on how can we make the program just more accessible to people that haven't read the full RST manual. And I can already tell the response feels so much better now going through Imola. Still very responsive, but not overly responsive where I'm losing time. Tire pressure is looking good too. Passive aggressive nightbot. Yeah, Voodoo, I actually just re-enabled the nightbot for this stream. I need to configure it a little bit better, it seems like. Yeah, braking distance still really good. Not over engaging the ABS, but way, way better corner entry. Already have 3 tenths. That was my mistake. Went a little bit wide there. Trying to really stay off that gravel, guys. It's really slows the car down. Crazy how this car can attack the curves. All right. Tire pressure is looking pretty good, actually. Pretty much spot on. Do another lap or two. I'm gonna really start thinking about the car behavior. That feels really good in the corner, though. You can just see how it just really grips up in that low speed corner. It's a little bit loose on that right hander. Tire temperature is looking really good too. 87 on the front left, 90 on the front right. So a delta of 3, 83. and 89. So a little bit more lateral stiffness on the rear and the front. Whenever that temperature delta is wider on the rear than the front, it typically means you have a little bit more stiffness on the rear. Oh man, I had to lift it a little bit. I thought I was gonna go on the gravel again. I want to look at the lateral load. I think we might need one click less rear ARB. Just one click. The ARB on the Mercedes is really low, so that will be a very small change to the balance, but it'll make it a little bit towards understeer. So the response will more or less be the same still. It's not really changing the balance too much. I think that'll help just a little bit on that low speed corner. Just getting a little bit loose on the exit there. Car feels really good other than that though. Very easy to drive. Do another lap, one more. Go and make an adjustment. It's insane that you can take this line in that car. All right, let's go ahead and load in the car parameters to look at the load distribution. See what's going on here. Transient feels pretty good to me. Really not feeling too many issues here. Still, definitely some time still to be gained. Let's go ahead and look through here. Just gonna load in the car parameters, and then what we're gonna do is I need to get the what the static travel is, so we can figure out what the free length the free length of the spring is. Sorry. We go to stability. We're gonna go to time. I'm gonna look at what the ride height's here. So the front is like 16. It's like 17 basically. So 17, and then the rear is 25-ish. 25. So we'll do that. Now that I do that, I can look at loads for the setup, so I can see what the loads are doing in the car as I go through corners. One thing I want to look at is here. So I'm getting really loose here. That's the chicane. Everywhere else looks pretty stable though. I'm looking for any spikes like higher than 20 or lower than negative 20. That's a pretty good indication that something's going on. So I got a little loose here on entry out of turn 1. You can definitely see I got off the throttle because I probably got really loose there. A little bit loose on the exit. I definitely felt that. Let's see, look at the differential. I was curious if the differential is unlocking. Yeah, okay. So that's what's happening. The differential is unlocking for just a little bit and then it locks back up. So that's going to be where that kind of little snap is going. Unfortunately, in ACC, we can't change the power ramp angle or the number of clutches, which is what I would do in this. You can only affect the preload, which because we're on max power, preload is going to have very little difference here. But you can definitely see that's what happened here. We had very little wheel slip, and as soon as that differential unlocked, we had a lot of wheel slip through here. Probably maybe a bump. Let's look at the stability and the dampener speeds, and let's see if there's a bump here. There is a bump. It looks like, that's maybe getting into high speed. We're looking high speed is going to be typically um, around 100. Like anything above like 50 millimeters per second is probably going to start to activate the high speed settings here. Let's look at what I'm curious is the rear right, the blue. Let's see. Make this a little bigger. So front right and then the rear left. Yeah, we actually don't have a lot of compression. Maybe a little bit here on the exit. We could probably soften up the rear bump low speed compression. That's going to make it a little bit more compliant on the exit there. That might help a little bit, get a little bit more traction out of the exit there. But we'll have to see. I don't really think there's much we can do in that corner, unfortunately. But let's see. Look at the histogram real quick. Definitely getting some differences between front and rear in the high speed sections. So the bump is anything to the right of 0. You can see our high speed bump velocities are much higher than the fronts, and that makes sense, right? It's less loaded, so it's gonna respond much quicker. The rebound looks okay though. Got another one too. I'm gonna see if this is a recurring trend. Yeah, you can see pretty consistently the rear velocities are a little bit higher. I want to look at the loads real quick. That's why we calculated the static ride too. The lateral load transfer will kind of tell you what the load is doing, as you go out. So anything above like 50 is going to be like a little bit more towards the front. Anything below 50 is going to be more rearward. So this is a really good indication of what your stiffness is for your car. And you can see like most corners here, like we're around like 50 to 60, which is right where you want to be. But on the exit where we hit that bump, we go down to 53. That really tells me that we're hitting a bump on that rear, which kind of locks it out. On most corners though, like let's look at the some of these other corners here. You always want to look at the kind of the steady state response here. So we're right around 60, which is pretty on the safe side actually. Definitely a little bit low coming into that right hander. Still not bad though. 64. So I think what we need to do is let's just decrease that rear ARB one click. That's going to help add a little bit. It's going to increase this lateral distribution a little bit farther forward. It's going to make it a little bit more stable here in some of the high speed stuff, especially on the exit of that turn. Then we're going to decrease the rear low speed bump compression just a click. I think that'll help us on that one turn on the exit that we got a little bit. I think that'll be pretty good. So let's go ahead. We're going to make those adjustments just quick. Car feels really, really good though. Really can't complain too much about what's going on here. But we are gonna make that adjustment just quick. So the right. We're gonna soften that up and then one click on the bump dampening. We're just gonna do low speed. Typically the low speed is definitely probably going to be that slower. You have to think too, even though your dampers might be in high speed, a low speed is going to still affect a high speed corner, right? Because it's the sum of low speed and high speed dampening. So you always want to check your dampener speeds, but a low speed will always affect everything. A high speed will only affect when you're in high speed sections. So just make sure you check the dampener speeds, but that does make a huge difference. And I'm curious, quick. Two. I always forget like what the ECU maps are because there's no documentation for them. So hopefully we're on the right mode. We're on mode 2, which I think is like the race mode here. Just looking at the tire wear real quick too, guys. Always when you're doing this setup, it's really important to monitor the tire wear and make sure everything is going okay. You don't want to do a setup that's just burning up the rears, right? Especially for these endurance races, you want to keep that consistency nice and steady over the full stint. If you start wearing the rears, you'll be pretty quick in the front of the stint. But as you wear those rears, the balance is going to shift backwards, right? And that's going to cause a very over responsive car, and you might lose too much time at the end of the stint to really make up for it. So you just want to be tracking that when you're working setups to make sure everything is good. Oh, interesting. I'm gonna I wonder what the let's just go ahead. I moved the brake bias forward just another click. I adjusted the rear area down just one click, and I dropped the rear bump. Again, we're just trying to add some stability, add a little bit more wheel compliance here, but that should be good. I think camber looks really good too. 6 on the front, delta 6 on the rear. Don't need to really make any adjustments there. Toe looks really good. Pressures, yeah, we're good. I think this is gonna be right where we need to be. But let's go ahead and save it, and then let's hit the road running. And then after the setup is done, guys, I always do a race at the end of the setup. Again, when you're making a setup for these hot lap adjustments, you kind of have perfect conditions, right? Sometimes you might have a car that, you know, if you have perfect conditions, you know, you're really quick. But if something unexpected happened, maybe someone pulls out in front of you or someone rejoins the track bad and you have to like dodge out of the way. If you have a really responsive car, you might lose it. So I always do a race to what I call test the raceability of a setup. I really recommend that you guys do that just to make sure, you know, you don't need to make adjustments. A lot of people like to practice in hot lap conditions, which is really good for raw pace, but it can definitely catch you off sometimes. So we're just gonna do another lap here with the tire temperatures, pressures come up. I did have to adjust the pressures again, just another click. Again, as we make setup adjustments, those tire pressures are gonna change, right? So you're gonna have to kind of reiteratively check them and come back to them. Hey, what's up, Tort? How's it going, bud? Yeah, that's what Neil said. It is extremely fast here, I'm not gonna lie. This car is ridiculous. I mean, like, we know all the front engine cars kind of have an advantage at Imola, right? Like the Aston, the Lexus, the Bentley, they're all pretty quick here. They just have a lot better wheel compliance with the mid engines, but the Mercedes takes it to a whole new level. Like, I just hit those bumps on the front left, and it like didn't even phase the car. Balance feels spot on now. Yeah, G's are already up quite a bit. Oh my god, I keep going a little bit wide there. The gravel just absolutely kills your speed in this game, which it makes sense that it would, but it's so frustrating when you hit it, right? Yeah, way better traction. Already getting a little bit of time on the traction out of there, so that decreasing that low speed bump on the rear definitely helps get just a little bit more traction on the exit, right? Again, when you decrease the bump dampening, you slow the rate at which you load the tire up. So it's a little bit more progressive, right? really good exit there, though. Felt really nice. God, I don't know if you guys could see that in the video. The stability is so good. I let the car step out, but it just held that angle through the whole thing. Really bad for the rear tires, but man, it feels awesome. All right, let's push here. Oh yeah, the exit feels so good there now. That bump dampening made a huge difference. There we go. Finally, I was losing a little bit of time on that right-hander for a while. It was really starting to piss me off because I didn't know why. It's probably just overslowing the car. That was a horrible exit. There we go. I'll take that. 5/10. Car feels amazing now too. I have a lot of confidence to push the car. When you look at setups, you never really increase the grip, more or less. What you're doing is you're just giving the driver more confidence to push the car harder, right? I mean, you can increase the grip a little bit, but it's very small compared to what you're doing for the driver. Except maybe for someone like Nils or Tort who can get everything out of the car. For me, it's more about driver confidence, though. I'm definitely not at that level. As you get closer to where the setup needs to be, it becomes much harder to start identifying what the car needs, because it starts to feel really good, right? Yeah, that's probably true, Nils. Man, it's crazy, like, when you think about the amount of effort and, like, the perception of small details between someone that's, like, really quick and someone that's, like, at Nils's levels. It's, like, insane. It's really crazy to think about what the human mind can do at that level. It's just like that, you know, the little execution of things, like that 10th at every lap just adds up, or every corner just adds up over the lap, you know? I'm gonna really start pushing the car, see if I can start eliciting some behaviors. Car feels mega though. 1 second, Jimmy, let me Oh, the grip feels so good on the exit now. Jimmy said, it's about how fast the tire gets loaded and unloaded and how much the driver can handle, right? Yeah, exactly, Jimmy. So you have to think, if you load the tires up quicker, your driver needs to be more precise, right? Because you'll basically overload that tire much quicker if you give it the wrong inputs. So Now, typically, people like Nils, they like to really increase the response in the car because they're so precise, they can get away with it, right? Whereas when you have like maybe more newbie drivers like myself, we're not as precise. We need a little less response in the car. That way we can kind of sense when we're getting to the limit. Makes a huge difference. And that's why dampeners and springs and ARBs, you're not really decreasing or increasing the amount of grip you have. What you're doing is you're changing the way that grip is distributed through the car, right? You're changing that lateral stiffness distribution is what like us engineers call it. Man, this car feels mega now, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna do like another lap or two, guys. And I think really at this point, I think the setup is done. What I'm gonna do is go do a car race. AI 100% just to make sure that the car is, you know, raceable. You know, when people step out in front of us, we don't have any, like we don't lose the rear and things like that. I just hit that corner perfectly. It's such a risky line in any car except the Mercedes. So I don't know if you guys can see it. On the exit of turn 4, there's 2 sausage curbs. And if you hit it just right, you can go over them and split them, right? And any car that's super risky because you hit one of the curbs, you die. But in the Mercedes, you can kind of get away with hitting one of them. And like it doesn't kill you. So you can pretty much say that line every time. It's insane. I think at low temperatures, like if we had the same temperatures for RCI, I'd probably be doing low 42s, high 41s, to be honest. We're about 10 degrees higher than what the RCI race was. All right, see you, Nils. Have a good time, man. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. I am gonna try one thing, guys. Again, remember when I said bump stop gap, bump stop rate? Those bump stops all contribute to wheel compliance and you know being able to tolerate curbs. The car setup feels really good. Like as far as the transient and the steady state behavior, I really don't want to make any adjustments there. But being the engineer and just wanting to try to get a you know more optimal solution, I'm gonna experiment with changing the bump stop rates and gaps just to see if we can keep the transient and steady state behavior where it's at, but change it to where we can tolerate a little bit more curbs, right? So I am gonna let's try this out real quick. So I'm just gonna return to the garage, and all I'm gonna do is again increase the bump stop range like 2 clicks. And I'm actually gonna decrease. Actually, I'm gonna do 1 click of bump stop range, and then I'm gonna decrease the rate quite a bit here. Again, this is gonna make it softer so that we can go over these curves quite a bit more. I just want to see if we can get more compliance without affecting the behavior. So 0.4 was a perfect setup, but just maybe a little rough for the curves. I'm gonna try 0.5, see if we can keep the balance where it is, but just be able to tolerate these curves a little bit more aggressive. So again, just kind of experimenting here, but let's go ahead and test it up. So this is a nice thing about practice is you can go 200 kph through the pit stops. It's kind of fun. So you can kind of get away with this in the Mercedes because it has so much anti-dive on it, right? In most cars, they don't have this much anti-dive. So you use the bump stops to control the aero, but because the car naturally does it, you can kind of get away with it. So let's see if we start to affect the behavior a little too much, we might have to add some back in. But let's see as a test if we can get away with it. Where I'm really interested when I make this adjustment is corner entry a little too unstable now? Is it too much response? And so far, no. And I can definitely tell the wheel compliance is a little bit better over the curb, so I haven't really attacked anything because my pressures are low. right, tire temperatures are up, tire pressures are up. Let's do this. I haven't really lost any time. Not gaining time either, but we're just trying to see if we can increase wheel compliance, so kind of expected until the final chicane anyways. Alright, this is where the test comes to fruition. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Way better. So way more aggressive there. Do one more lap just to make sure. The bounce really hasn't changed that much. On 2/10. Let's go. Oh, I didn't know you could invalidate the lap on the inside there. That's interesting. That was a horrible line. Oh, my fault there. Maybe a little bit more responsive on turn 3 to 4, where we're in that high speed, right? That's where the bump stop's really going to make a difference. I might go up on the bump stop rate just a little bit. Keep the gap where it's at, you know, a little bit higher. Let's go a little bit more up on the rate. Just to help add a little bit of stiffness to help preventing it a little bit. Do one more lap though, just to make sure. Alright, let's do one more lap. We made a lot of mistakes there. I think somewhere between where we were on the 4.0 and where we're at now is right where we're gonna want to be. Really nailed that one. Let's go. That was nice. Up 2/10 here. Well, I lost it all, but I got a really good exit. Yeah, I think we needed to split the difference here. I think we went a little bit too low on the rate because we went up on gap and we also went down on rate, so we're kind of like doubling the effect, right? Let's just go ahead, make that change. And then I think the setup is going to be good, guys. So we're going to go ahead and taste the raceability up here. But let me make that change before I forget. So I like 4.0, just a little bit too much on 3.4 now. So what I'm going to do. Tire wear was super good too, though. I only did a few laps, so it's kind of hard to tell. But the difference is only 0.01 in front and rear. So we're wearing the rears pretty good compared to the fronts here. Let's go ahead and so what did I say I was gonna do? Again, I forgot. um. Oh yeah, the bump stop rate on the front. So let's just go up like difference between where we were and where we were 4.0. Keep the bump stop gap where we increased it to here. Give this a go. Should be good. All right, so I'm gonna call this. Now that we've got everything dialed in, we're gonna call this 0.1. Again, I use 0.1 as my release candidate. When we finish this setup today, I'm going to do the race right now. We're going to test this race. And then if I was really satisfied, no issues during the full race, what I'll do is it goes to Speed Demon, who is kind of our RST esports guy. He's like one of the quick drivers. He's got the pace, you know, pretty close to like Jardier and like some of the top guys in ESRO. Not quite as fast as Nils, but he's the best at. He's a really good friend of mine. He's really quick. So he's gonna make sure that the car doesn't need to push in certain corners that I'm not able to attack the way he is. And we'll do like a full stint. So we'll collect data, make sure that tire wear and everything looks really good on the setup, and we'll make some tweaks from there, and then it'll be good. So even the work that you guys see here isn't everything that goes into these setups. But I think these streams are kind of cool to show my thought process and you guys to kind of ask questions as we're doing things, and me to kind of show you RST, things like that. One thing I do want to show you guys is the new update for RST. So let me save one of these laps here, and then we'll load it in. I want to show you the new software. It's so cool. Before we do the new race, so I just saved that setup or that lap, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to load in the new version of RST for you guys to check out. And I just want to kind of show it off to you guys. It's pretty cool actually how it works. The big thing is we're adding the data tree back onto the right hand side, and then also you can select as many laps as you want to show. So it gets a little crazy if you select like 10 laps, right? The performance really tanks because it's a lot of data you're trying to graph. But that being said, if you want to, you can. So I just want to show that to you guys just real quick. Let it load up real quick. I have to load it up through our software that we use. But let me go ahead now. I'm gonna go to you'll see the old version. Let me switch it over real quick to the new RST. I have no idea what that's gonna be called. Actually, we'll just do this view. I'll hide this view. Then let me pull it up. So hopefully you guys can see this. It's not too small. Make it a little bit bigger here. There we go. So I have the RC the code in the background, but this is the new interface. So you can see there's the data tree back on the right hand side. It still isn't complete. We still got to add that data, the trap map and stuff back in. But look at this. So now I can select a lap. You can see I have just the differential slip here. Same kind of graphs as before, but check it out. Now I can select as many graphs as I want, and every lap that I select gets graphed, which is really cool. So I can let me zoom into this. I could make a setup adjustment and then compare those two and see how they've changed as I add different laps. You can also see on the right, if you select the baseline, it shows B for that lap, and then you can see what colors coordinate and their values on the chart. So really cool functionality. You can see as I add more graphs, it gets a little laggier. Again, you're adding a lot of data here. So you just got to be kind of smart about how many you select. But it's really cool to be able to select as many as you want. One thing that's really cool too is we've gotten handling and suspension right, but now you can compare multiple histograms on top of one another, which is quite nice. You're not going to see much of a delta between these two because again, this is the same setup. If you had two different setups, you could, start to compare the differences between the two. And we're doing this for everything. So like pitch and roll gradient, you can compare how the pitch and roll gradient is changing for like multiple laps, things like that. Stiffness distribution, you can compare, so you can see how it's changing when you make setup adjustments. But it's pretty much a full rewrite for the app, guys. We finished handling and suspension, but we still have gearing, aero, temps. Everything else will be pretty quick, but those are gonna take a while. So we're expecting like maybe 3 weeks to a month before this update comes out. But that's why we haven't really had an update for RST, is because we've been working on this update, which is a lot of work. But we hope to, fix these bug fixes and some of these things where we work on this. This is kind of what Andrew's been working on. I hired Andrew as a developer. With all your guys' support, we were able to hire another developer. So he's been coding this while I do the setups and do these streams for you guys. It's been really, really helpful. But that's the new software. I just want to kind of show it to you guys just real quick. But let's go ahead. Let's go back to ACC, and we're going to do a practice race now. So we're going to do a quick race. Opponent skill set to 100, aggression set to 90, so we can't set the opponent skill up any higher. We'll set our starting position at the back, and we'll do about a 20-minute race here. So we're just going to load this up and give her a go. Again, I do these just to make sure that the car feels good. If unexpected things happen, the car doesn't kill me, right? A lot of these times when you make these setups in the kind of like hot lap conditions is what I call them, you can make them too aggressive, right? And they become issues when you try to run them in a race type environment where things can happen unknowingly. So we're just gonna load this race up. I'm gonna start the car up, and we're gonna go. If you guys have any questions or anything, let me know. Otherwise, enjoy the race, guys. I'll try to commentate and things as I'm racing, but I'm definitely not on the Nils or some of the other guys' level, especially at tracks like Imola, right? Where it's just so much. One thing I do need to do is I need to deselect this. Sometimes I've noticed if I have a selection made in OBS, it lags it out. So I just want to close that. Let's get back to it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. It's always fun to kind of hang out with you guys and answer your guys' questions and everything. I really like this format. It's really cool for me to show you guys and just kind of show you my brain, or explain how I approach problems. It's kind of hard to do the YouTube videos sometimes just because so much editing goes into them. With these, it's kind of like a little bit more chill environment. I don't really have to do all the editing for the video. I can kind of just do hand diagrams and then we can go from there, right? Oh, I didn't see the green light buttons. All right. We're going to chill this a little bit. This AI can be very aggressive sometimes. Oh, right up the middle, boys.
Car on the left. Clear on the left. Car on the left.
All right, we're 3 wide here. Let's see if we can get a little bit better exit here. Not enough room there to make a move.
Car on the right. 3 wide.
Oh, got a little contact there from the back. That was my fault, being a little too aggressive.
Car on the right.
Never drive like this in a real race. All right, now that the field's spread out, we can drive a bit more like normal now. That's a P20.
Clear on the right.
See if we can catch this Porsche up here. Tire pressures are still a little bit cold. We're kind of still keeping some in the tank, so to speak, until the next lap. Very hard to pass here at Imola too. I'm kind of interested to see what the British tracks will be like. I know they're very tight, so I think they'll be hard to pass that as well. I'm going to move down the inside here.
Clear on the right.
There we go. P19. See if we can keep close to this number 77 Lamborghini. So it doesn't really have that much of an effect here in ACC. Not like iRacing, but it still has an effect. Mercedes got a long leg as well. See if we can
Car on
outbrake
the
him
right.
here going into turn 1.
Clear on the right.
Pretty easy. He broke pretty early there. That feels really good so far. Very easy to race on.
Car on the right.
Gonna be a drag race down to the left-hander. Side by side, I'm gonna have to take an inside line here.
Clear on the right.
He backed out. Let's catch up to the number 992 Porsche. Got a little loose, but the setup was able to catch itself. It's really important why you need a little bit of stability added into the setup. Stability is defined as the ability for the car to return back to its initial state. So even though the car rear steps out, being able to catch that rear, right? Really, really important to be building that into the setup.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
Got a pretty good run on
Car
the
on the right.
488,
Clear on the right.
488 Ferrari.
Car on the right. Clear on the
See
right.
if we can get around him here.
Front of me. The fastest lap so far.
Oh, they broke way earlier
Car
than
on
me.
the left. Clear on the left.
Able to keep it out of trouble though. I don't know why you're braking there, bro. See if we got any damage. No damage.
Car on the left. Clear on the left.
It's weird I don't have any damage actually. Must have the damage turned off for the game. That was weird, he just totally stopped on the apex. I guess that's the AI for you, right? Alright, let's see if we can catch him back up here. You can see how much more mid-corner speed I'm carrying through there. That's insane. See if we can take an inside line here. A little risky. No, too far back. We'll pass him up here on this right-hander though, left-hander.
Clear on the right.
All right, got her done. All right, we're chasing the 188 Aston Martin now. Got about 1.1 second gap. And look at the tire temperatures, tire pressures look really nice. Delta of 3 on the front, about 5 on the rear. So we do have a little bit more rear stiffness in the front, which is okay. Yeah, we're trying to get that response where we want it to be able to really push the car. Nothing worse than a car that just understeers, right? Or has a lack of response. The traffic's a little more spread out, so it's a little easier to get back to the 42, 43 pace that we had. Oh my god, he's really slowed down there. I think that's why we gain so much time over the AIs. They just slow down so much with that right-hander. They don't attack
Car on
the...
the right. Clear on
Oh,
the
I got
right.
it. He tapped me.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
So that was my fault. I tried to push it through the inside because I knew I could hang it, but he had like a tank slapper basically. He got loose and he hit me.
Car on the right.
Car feels good though. Tire temp is looking really good too. Not overheating the tires or anything. Keeping it right around 90C. Temperature, grip starts to fall off a little bit around like 95. You typically want to keep them too hot than too cold. Grip really tanks when they're cold. Alright, let's catch back up to these guys. A little wide there. They're gonna get a... Oh, no cut. Nice. Usually if you hit those curves on the outside, you get a warning. Man, it's crazy how this car can just glide over those curves. You can see visually from the cars ahead. We just gained so much time through there. Alright, we're right on back of this 992 Porsche. We're gonna be much quicker than him down the straight though.
On the left. Gaining on the driver ahead in sector 3. Fastest lap of the race, man. Good job.
Alright, let's take an inside line through here.
Car on the left. Clear on the left. Car on the left. Clear on the left.
Gotta go on the outside. Hard to make a move there.
We are halfway through, not over yet.
Oh, I took an inside line. Not cool, dude. Nine minutes to go, guys. 9 minutes to go. Gonna pass him right here,
Car
though.
on the right. Clear on the right.
Go deep.
Car on the left.
He's on the men's side now.
Clear on the left.
Nice. Got her done. Whew, that was actually a little challenging. That was fun. Try to make a move. I was a little too far back, unfortunately. Got to back out of there. God, it gets so slow there. Like impossible to make a pass there, but you could easily, like, the speed differential is so high. Alright, we're gonna pass him right here on the left-hander though.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
They're done. Woo, there we go. All right, E14. Sorry, my dog was trying to lick me. Come X. That was totally my bad. Just blinked out and didn't even think about my braking zone. Car is very forgiving though, very easy to drive hard. It definitely will let you know if you step over the limit, but it still comes back to you pretty easily, if that makes sense. Stability is very high still. Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate it. I was just totally blanked out there. Good pace right now though. 42, 542. Definitely making time up on this Aston up here. See if we can get another position or two before the race. Still got 5 minutes, so still got some time.
Fastest lap of the race. Great job.
Look at that. So much more speed than him.
Car on the right.
The drag race down to
Clear on the right.
There we go, nice. This car is really geared nicely for Imola as well. See if we can catch the number 14 Lamborghini up ahead. Be really aggressive up here. Tire temp's looking good. 4 on the front, 5 on the back, so nice and even. Slowly catching these two.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
Only in this car can you take that line like that, because it forces you to go over the turn 4 curve. Here we are. Oh, we got a nice exit too. So we can get the Lexus here. too wide through there. Are you kidding me? That was not cool. I was ahead of it, so I thought I was gonna back out of it. And the AI is pretty aggressive at Imola. But yeah, I had to turn in because if I was so deep, like I was gonna miss the turn if I didn't turn. I feel like I still gave him a lot of room on the inside. I totally missed my braking point there. Alright, I still got one more lap or two. See if we can catch this Aston. Setup feels really good, just me being a little too aggressive. Trying to push it when I should have just waited. That was the number 15 Lexus too. Yeah, no space for a human. Yeah, that's probably true. AI are definitely different. Go do some laps in iRacing then. Fair enough, fair enough. Now, the car feels great though. This car is really a beast here at Imola. I can already tell.
Alright, man. The leader is on the final lap. Give me the final.
Alright, final lap. Let's get this last position here. Yeah, Speed, when you get this set up, you're gonna like laugh how like it can just roll over curves like nothing. I should have did this setup last because this is gonna ruin me for the other cars. I already know. Oh yeah, we got the speed here. We got the speed. Come on, take the inside.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
There we go. Barely got out in front of him. Just edged. Barely out in front. Don't think I can catch the Lamborghini. It's a little too far ahead, I think. Only way is if I totally send it through here. Man, just maybe if I had one more lap, I'd catch him. Caught back out to that Lexus too.
The leader has finished the race.
Yeah, it's a little bit too far back there. We'll take it though. That's pretty good. We probably could have ended up at like 8 or 9 if I didn't get spun like 2 or 3 times. But let's go ahead and look at the tire wear for that setup, right? This is something that's really important for us when we do setup work. So I'm just gonna go into here. We're just gonna hide that just for a real quick second. And looking at the tire wear, so you can see my goal when I do tire wear is to get the front and rear to be no more than 0.1 delta between the front. If you look here, we're definitely above that 0.1 or like 0.08 delta between the front and rear. So the tire wear is really good between the front and the rears. It's not really going to change the balance of the car as the race progresses. So in that regard, the setup's really good. Didn't really have any issues during the race. Car felt really good. Really easy to push the car. It definitely did let you know if you push the car a little too hard. You still had some response in there, so you could get the car rotating. You could definitely over rotate it. But it was really easy to catch and bring it back if you did. I just want to watch just a few laps of that race, guys. I always enjoy watching just a little bit here. Um, I wish, is there a way to go to highlights? I can see there's save highlights, but I just want to see the highlights. I don't know if there's a way just to view the highlights. I don't see one though. But let's just watch a few laps here. I don't remember what lap I spun. If you guys remember what lap I got taken out this chicane, I'd like to watch that. Yeah, this is the first few opening laps. Let's just look at the body language of the car. Car looks really cool. I love the look of the Mercedes Evo. Got the RST color. So you went up the inside here. Got in there nice and neat. Oh, save highlights, then go to gallery. Okay, no, that's good to know, Speed. Thank you for letting me know. That probably would be just like the incidents though, huh? It wouldn't be like my passing and stuff. Here we go, into turn 1. That's where I went a little bit deep, I think. Little contact there. Just a little door slapper. Yeah, that's where he broke on the apex. That was insane. Do you guys see that? Literally just stops right on the apex. Like, look at this. Stop. That's horrible. All right, let's go back to here. Body language of the car just looks really nice. You can tell it's no over rotation or anything like that. It's really planted. Looks really. You can always kind of tell in the replay. Obviously, we look at the data, we get driver feedback. But just watching a car on track, you can usually see if it's a hard car to drive or if it's just really planted. Looks really good through that corner. Crazy mid-corner speed compared to those cars. Go look up at the inside. Nope, too far back. Man, look at it over those curves. It doesn't even look like it's hitting curves. It just rolls right over them. Oh, you turned into me just a little bit there. All right, let's fast forward. I want to see where we hit the okay, it's coming up here. So it was the Lexus that we had trouble with. I think I passed the Lamborghini into turn 1, maybe turn 3 or 4. Let's see. Yeah, look at that, jeez. There's way more speed through that corner. Oh, a lot of curve there. That's really good on the exit too. On the Ferrari, I was getting a little bit loose on the exit, just a little bit of traction. They're just so planted. All right, we're coming up to the incident, we'll call it. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, I totally killed him. It felt like I gave way more room than that, but I totally didn't, did I? Oh yeah, I totally killed him. That was my bad. Let's reverse it. One more time. I thought he was farther back than what he was. Nice little donut there, though. do. A nice run on the exit here. Went super deep in the braking. Yeah, I didn't give it. I should have given him some more room there. That's my bad. But I think that's gonna be it, guys. Super happy with the setup. Car felt really good. No issues during the race. So like I said, the next step is I'm gonna send this setup to Speed. He's gonna do like a full stint, try to see if the car needs to be able to push in a certain way that I'm not able to push it, and we'll make tweaks from there. And the MLS setups will be good. That being said, yeah, right, Jimmo. It looked completely different. That being said, the setup that we are working, it's very close to the Silverstone setup. There are some tweaks that we have made. The Silverstone setup is a really good baseline setup for Imola. There's a really strong correlation here. So if you don't want to wait for the Imola setups, which should be out in a month or 3 weeks to a month, go ahead, get the Silverstone setups and use that as a baseline for this setup. But that's going to be it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Always enjoy these live Q&As with you guys. If you have any questions or anything, please reach out to us on the Discord or on our website or at racingsimtools.com/contact. We'll try to help any you guys with any questions you might have. But that's going to be it. I hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the rest of the week and have a good next week. And if you're in the United States, enjoy the Super Bowl. That's why I'm signing off. But have a good one. This is Zach from RST, and I'll catch you guys.